No Coins Please by Gordon Corman. Chapter 2, Where's Artie? Charlie Butcher, executive tour director of Junior Tours, Inc., stood at the podium on the great lawn of Central Park in New York City. The hot July sun shone down on the 50 vans before him. Campers and counselors were assembled in front of their vehicles, waiting for the official start of the tour. All right, attention, everybody, Butcher barked into the microphone in a voice that bounced across the park. Hi there! A loud answering hi echoed his greeting. Welcome, all you junior tourists! It was a speech he'd been given for the past 5 years, and he closed his mind to it and rambled on. He liked speeches only slightly more than he liked children, which was not very much at all. You're all very lucky people because you're going to be driving all the way across this great country! He could not quite conceal his cringe of distaste. Thank heaven Junior Tours had a private plane for his personal use, he thought, since there was nothing he hated more than driving. This is a special year for Junior Tours because this year we've got kids coming down from Canada. Right now there are groups here from Montreal and Toronto, and at the big Western meeting in Los Angeles, there are people from Vancouver, wherever that is. Anyway, you kids are participating in an international event. Now, you're going to keep meeting up with each other at the checkpoint, so even though we're a big group, we all want to get to know each other. I've got here the list of all the group names from when you checked in. When I call out your name, everybody stand up and scream and wave and be seen. Butcher took a deep breath. This was the part he hated worst of all. From Farmingdale, New York, the Knights of the Road! Wild cheering came from 6 campers and their counselors beside a red van. In the midst of the crowd, Dennis turned to Rob. Well, that's it. We're going to be the laughingstock of Central Park. When he calls out the ambulance, I'm going to go hide in the van. For the first time, Rob was playing with the idea of enjoying himself on the tour. There are a lot of nice-looking girls here. Dennis nodded sadly. Wait till they hear the name of our group. Nevin. They'll think we're idiots. Rob shrugged. You heard Sam this morning. If you change the name of the group, they're going to protest. Besides, so what if we're the ambulance? Who cares? Butcher's voice rang out. From Montreal, Canada! The ambulance? What kind of a... He was interrupted by the ambulance group yell. Everyone stared at the wailing campers and their white van, and then waves of laughter swept the clearing. It's the best name, crowed Howie. Everyone loves it. You see, said Sam, I was right. Dennis studied the grass, his fair complexion flaming. Rob laughed. All the boys seemed exhilarated, with the exception of Artie, who sat on the ground clutching his attaché case, his expression distant. Butcher looked disgusted. All right, pipe down, everybody. We've just got a few more, then we'll hand out the stencils and the paint, and you can all put the group names on the vans. Dennis turned pale. While Charlie Butcher's assistants treated 300 campers to a barbecue lunch, Butcher himself was addressing their counselors in an isolated corner of the park. In less than an hour, we're turning you loose with our kids. Most companies would have a lot of rules and regulations. I only have one, and this is it. Everything has to be perfect. There was an uncomfortable murmur. Perfect, Butcher repeated. By this I mean that you're going to follow your schedule exactly and get to the checkpoints on time. You're going to stay within your budget, and the supplies we give you are going to be exactly the right amount, so there shouldn't be any need for extra spending of tour money. You're going to keep your kids happy and healthy, so they've got no gripes when they get home. Most important of all, there's one word I never want to hear. Lost. Don't lose anything or anybody, and don't show up somewhere late and tell me you got lost. If you lose so much as a hubcap, you're dead. He took a deep breath and went on. Now, Junior Tours has offices all over the country, and each one's got an emergency number. We've all got a list of those numbers, and I've only got one rule about them. Don't phone. There's nothing I hate worse than hearing that red telephone ring. It means that everything isn't perfect. Butcher favored them with a genial smile. Here's a piece of friendly advice. In my experience at Junior Tours, the biggest pains in the neck come when you counselors let the campers out of your sight for even 2 seconds. So watch them. That's all. Have a good trip. The counselors scrambled over to the barbecue, anxious to be out of Butcher's presence and eager to keep their charges under surveillance as per instructions. Dennis and Rob found their group happily munching hamburgers. Great food, approved Sam. We saved you each a burger. Thanks. Dennis accepted his lunch and looked around. There were Sam, Howie, Sheldon, Nick, Kevin, and... Where's Artie? Oh, he left, said Sheldon, his mouth full. Rob choked. What do you mean left? Well, he ate fast and said he was going into town, said Howie. We asked where, and he said nowhere much. He said not to worry, Kevin added, and that he'll meet us back here later. Oh, yeah, and he said to tell you he took his spending money out of the ambulance. I wonder where he went. Rob's mind flew back to Butcher's speech. Oh, no, Dennis, he's... He looked around furtively and dropped his voice to a whisper. Lost. All right, nobody panic, said Dennis shakily. We're going to take care of the situation efficiently and calmly. We'll find him. Where are we going to find him? There are 8 million people in New York. Butcher's going to kill us. You don't have to find him, Nick pointed out reasonably. He's coming back here when he's through. At least that's what he said. Okay, said Dennis. One of us will take the guys around the city. 6 heads are better than 1, and we'll look for Artie. The other one will stay here in case he comes back. But, Dennis took out a quarter. Call it. Heads? The coin flipped and fell. Tails, too bad. All right, we'll be back. You wait here. But, all right, guys, into the van. The last sound Rob heard as the van pulled out of view was the ambulance group yell and the screech of gears as Dennis shifted into second. The afternoon dragged slowly on. The Junior Tours vans pulled out one by one, leaving Rob sitting cross-legged on the great lawn of Central Park. His thoughts were in turmoil. The trip hadn't even started, and already they had lost a kid. Dennis's most harmless kid in the world had disappeared. There was something strange about Artie. There was. Rob had felt it from the beginning. What if he didn't come back? Or worse, what if something happened to him? He was only 11 years old, and where could he be in the vast city? Where? He'd call Butcher, the emergency line. Surely the disappearance of one of the kids was reason enough, or was it? He recalled Butcher's speech, so fresh in his mind. Don't phone. Rob sighed glumly. He never should have signed up for this miserable trip. Why did he always let Dennis talk him into things? He was a victim of his own weakness, and these were the rewards of wishy-washiness. He was responsible for losing an innocent child in New York. On the other hand, the innocent child had taken off on his own, attaché case in hand, without telling anyone where he was going or what he planned to do there. Not only that, but he had appropriated $200 without permission. The money was his, but still. What am I going to do? Rob cried aloud. A passing rollerblader shrugged expressively and moved on. Rob lay back in despair. He watched the clouds for a while, but then, the late night, an early rising caught up with him, and he fell fast asleep. Rob, wake up! Rob awoke to see Artie Geller peering mildly down at him. He sat bolt upright and grabbed the boy by the shirt. Artie, where were you? Where have you been? Artie shrugged. Oh, nowhere. Everyone's searching the streets of New York for you, said Rob angrily. He looked at his watch. It's 5:45. You're in big trouble, mister. Why? Asked Artie innocently. Well, because you left without telling anybody. I told everybody who was there. And you took money without permission. That's stealing. Artie looked surprised. The money was mine. But your mother gave it us to hold for you. Hand it over. Artie reached into his pocket and produced a dime and a nickel. 15 cents? Where's the other $199.85? I spent it. You spent it? On what? What do you have to show for that money? Not so much as a lollipop. Don't worry, Artie said gravely. I didn't spend it foolishly. But we made a promise to your mother that we'd watch your money, and because of you, we've let her down. Artie shrugged. She gave it to you to hold until I needed it, and I needed it today. For what? To throw into some video game? Now you're not going to have any money left for the whole trip. Artie said nothing. Well, you sit right down here beside me and don't move a muscle. We're going to wait for the van to get back. Dennis and the other guys aren't going to be too pleased with you, ruining their whole day. The two sat, Rob seething with indignation, Artie serene, cradling his briefcase lovingly in his arms. It was 45 minutes before the van came back to pick them up. The air rang with the horn of the ambulance group yell as the white van drove up the pathway and stopped. Rob stared in amazement as the 6 passengers disembarked. Dennis was splendid in an I Heart NY t-shirt, a garishly studded belt, and an enormous sombrero fringed with velvet pom-poms. Oh, hi, Artie. Glad you're back. Boy, Rob, you missed out on a great day. Rob was trembling with rage. Dennis, what kind of counselor are you anyway? When you left here 6 hours ago, we were missing a kid, and you went on a pleasure jaunt and left me to cope with the whole thing. Dennis paused. Well, Artie's here, so we must have done something right, eh? Anyway, we saw everything, right, guys? Right, said Sam. My favorite part was when we ran out of gas on the big white street light in the middle of rush hour. Nick giggled. Yeah, Fifth Avenue. Everyone was shouting and honking their horns, and then the policeman went right up to Dennis and said, "Move out, idiot." It was great. Kevin patted his 35mm camera. I got a close-up of his face. What a shot. In the bottom corner, you'll see him shaking his fist at Dennis. And anyway, Dennis went on, while we were walking around with our bucket looking for a gas station, we bought all this great stuff. Tearing his eyes from Dennis, Rob noted the 5 campers were similarly decorated with tourist paraphernalia. Well, I'm glad to see you all spent money. Artie spent a little money today, too. $200. Yeah? What'd you get? Artie shrugged. Nothing special. Rob clenched his fist in exasperation. Dennis, I want to talk to you. Sure, but first, let's get to the campsite and fix something to eat. We're all starved. Come on, everybody, all aboard. As he and Rob climbed into the front seat, he added, new place tonight. Some park in Long Island where a lot of tour groups are staying. They're probably all eating already. He looked vaguely annoyed. We could be, too, if we hadn't had to pick you guys up. Rob bit his tongue and said nothing. The trailer park was largely populated by Junior Tours vans, since about half the New York continent was stationed there. By 11 o'clock, all the campers were asleep under their protective tent flaps, but some of the counselors remained awake. Dennis and Rob sat on the grass in front of their van. Finally, they're asleep, Dennis was saying. I didn't think Sheldon would ever shut up. I've never seen such a happy bunch of kids in my life. I'm miserable enough to cancel out their happiness, Rob growled. Gee, I'm really sorry about that, but we drove all around New York, and when we didn't see Artie, we figured he was with you, so we went sightseeing. But what about his money, Dennis? It's all gone. He went out with $200 and came back with 15 cents. Dennis shrugged. So he'll learn a valuable lesson when he wants something and can't afford it. We're here to educate as well, you know. And from time to time, we'll stake him a few dollars to see that he has a good time too. Rob sighed. I guess you're right, but that kid worries me. You can't get a straight answer out of him, no matter how hard we tried. Me, you, the other kids. He wouldn't tell us where he went today or what he spent that money on. Dennis yawned. He's probably just ashamed, see. He's learning the lesson already. Hey, I didn't tell you what happened today. I met this really nice girl on the street. All the guys insisted we take turns carrying the gas, and Sheldon spilled some all over this really nice girl's shoes. So I struck up a conversation. She's an NYU student majoring in drama. I was going to ask for her phone number, but I didn't feel the moment was right. Rob laughed. Probably because she was ready to take off her shoe, stuff it in your mouth, and light it. You know, Dennis, since you've got so much experience as a ladies' man, maybe we should go over and say hello to those 2 Boston girls, the Pink Panthers. They're sitting there all alone. Dennis snug a furtive glance. They do look kind of nice. Of course, when we introduce ourselves as the ambulance, it's all over. Rob nonchalantly craned his neck and snuck another look. Come on, Dennis. What's in a name? Okay, but give me a minute to get psyched up, and don't look at them so obviously. They'll think we're idiots. The 2 boys sat there for a moment, staring straight ahead, while Dennis prepared himself mentally, and Rob searched his mind for casual opening remarks. The counselors from the Roadhogs, a van based in Bridgeport, Connecticut, walked over and introduced themselves to the girls. By the time Dennis and Rob turned their gaze back in the direction of Boston, an amiable conversation was already in progress. Dennis was incensed. The nerve of those guys moving in on our territory. Oh, shut up, Dennis. Let's get some sleep. Well, guys, said Dennis, leading the ambulance group out of the Empire State Building toward Avenue of the Americas. Wasn't that an amazing view? It sure was, exclaimed Sam. Right, guys? Right. I can tell you enjoyed it, Artie, Dennis went on. We almost had to pry you away from those binoculars with a crowbar. What was so fascinating down there? Artie looked vague. Oh, nothing. Cities are interesting. Dennis nudged Rob. You see? He whispered. He's learned his lesson already. The problem with you, Nevin, is you have no faith in human nature. Aloud, he announced, "All right, guys, next stop, Times Square." The boys stirred with excitement, and the whole group started walking a little faster, except for Artie, who gradually began to lag to the rear. The others strode down the street, absorbed by their surroundings. Just past a subway entrance, they turned onto Avenue of the Americas and began to walk uptown. A few minutes passed. A head emerged cautiously from the subway entrance. Eyes searched the street. Artie Geller, immaculate in a black tuxedo with a satin lapels, black tie, and a cummerbund, accenting a snowy white frilled shirt and a spotless white gloves, slipped up the stairs and began to walk purposefully down the street. His first stop was an establishment on Broadway, one of the places he had visited the day before. Quick print, small printing jobs. With a neat parcel under his arm, he proceeded to Cat's custom containers and picked up 2 cartons. Another parcel awaited him at a leather goods shop a little way down the block. Then he stopped at a grocery store and came out with a giant economy-sized jar of grape jelly, a stainless steel spoon, and a copy of the New York Times. Slipping into an isolated alleyway, he arranged his parcels on the ground and began to open them. He took out 30 little cardboard boxes, 3 inches by 3 inches by 3 inches, and placed them in front of him. Then came 31 fluid-ounce glass jars. Each jar received a sticker from the print shop parcel. Then he spooned them full of grape jelly and sealed them. A printed sheet was carefully folded and wrapped around the jar, and both were placed inside the box. Finally, a small rectangular card was added. The contents of the leather goods package were duly distributed, 1 per unit, and the whole arrangement was topped off by a square of newspaper carefully torn from the Times. Artie closed the lids of the boxes, loaded them into the largest carton, and moved to the intersection of 23rd Street and 5th Avenue, a spot he had selected from the observation deck of the Empire State Building for the quality and quantity of its passing trade. He emptied the carton, turned it over, and used it as a table and arranged his stock in a pyramid, opening 1 box as a display. It took only seconds for a young boy in a tuxedo, obviously open for business, to attract attention. A man in a gray pinstripe 3-piece suit ambled over and smiled at Artie. "That's a nice little monkey suit you got there, son. What are you selling?" Wordlessly, Artie reached into the box, pulled out the jar, and pointed to the sticker. It read, "Attack Jelly." The man goggled. "Attack Jelly? What's that?" "Why, protection for your home and loved ones, of course," Artie replied. "You never can be too careful these days." The look of disbelief came over the customer's face. "Okay, kid, how does it work?" Artie dismantled the package. "Well, you get your attack jelly and your complete instruction booklet, which includes indoor and outdoor use, plus care, grooming, and upkeep. And this is the sign for your front door. These premises protected by attack jelly, as a warning to burglars. Then there's the quality leather leash, studded for the stylish look so you can exercise your jelly, and some newspaper for paper training. But let me assure you, sir, they train very quickly. The set comes complete for $10. No coins, please." With effort, the man ripped his eyes from the table to stare at Artie. $10 for a jar of jam? Are you crazy? It's a small price to pay to sleep soundly in your bed at night. And, confidentially, I'm pretty sure you'll get a reduction on your house insurance rates when you tell the company you have attack jelly. All in all, it's a very good investment. The man stared, then laughed loudly. Bereft of speech, he reached into his wallet, produced a $10 bill, and handed it to Artie. "All right, you little bandit," he gasped. "Finally, I'll take one. It's ridiculous, I know, but for an act like that," he looked down the street and waved, "Hey, Fred, Murray, come over here. You gotta see this." Attracted by the first customers' roars of mirth, a large crowd was gathering, and soon the words "attack jelly" were being passed merrily along the street. Artie was sold out in a half an hour and was on his way with $300 to visit his suppliers. "Hey," said Rob, looking around suddenly. "Where's Artie?" The group stopped dead on the sidewalk and scanned the area. "That Artie," said Dennis in perplexity. "I just can't seem to figure him out." "He's a weird guy," decided Sam. "Yeah," said Howie. "He keeps leaving all the time. I guess he doesn't like us very much." "Come on, guys, don't be like that," Dennis protested. "Artie's just shy." "It's a little more complicated than that, Dennis," cried Rob, feeling the first symptoms of panic assail his system. "That kid is loose in the city with 15 cents in his pocket." "Pete Horgnuck always says that you should never lose your cool when things go wrong," put in Sheldon. "That's easy for him to say," Rob said defensively. "He's safe in Helsinki." "All right," Dennis announced. We've been in this situation before. He was with us just a few minutes ago, so he couldn't have gone far. Let's retrace our steps to look for him." "Why should we, if he doesn't want to be with us?" put in Nick. "Because we're a group," argued Dennis, "and we have to stick together. We have to show Artie that we want him." "Look," said Rob, "we've got to be reasonable about this thing. I don't think we lost Artie. I think Artie lost us." Dennis looked puzzled. "So what's the difference? We've still got to find him." "But he's not going to hang around waiting for us to catch him." "Okay, but we can't just walk around the whole city hoping to run into him. Let's go get the van." "Oh, no, you don't. I'm not running out of gas on Fifth Avenue in the middle of a crisis. Let's phone Butcher." Dennis turned pale. "Nevin, are you crazy? Phone on the emergency line to give him the word lost? He'll kill us. Worse yet, he'll kick us out of the tour." "Why don't we go to Times Square?" Nick suggested. "Artie knew we were going there. If he wants us, that's where he'll go too. And I can get some good shots," added Kevin, brandishing his camera. Dennis looked at Rob. "What do you think?" "I think that's what Pete Orgnuck would do," confirmed Sheldon. Rob sighed helplessly. "What have we got to lose?" They began to make their way northward. "How about a group yell?" exclaimed Howie. "Not here," said Sam self-consciously. "It isn't dignified." Business was booming at Artie's new location up Fifth Avenue at 49th Street. The customers were crowded all around, and the new shipment of 100 boxes was dwindling. "Yes, they really do become quite affectionate," Artie was telling the executive from NBC. "Of course, they never lose their bite, though, after all. They're for protection first and companionship second." "Kid, you're crazy. I'll take 2. A younger man held out 2 $5 bills. "I need one for my girlfriend. She's always complaining she needs more locks. Now she'll be safe. She'll have a tack jelly." "You're right, sir. They make wonderful gifts," said Artie, accepting the money and handing over a box. "Who's next? Don't crowd, please." "Kid, who are you working for?" asked a new attack jelly owner. "Well, I'm an independently sponsored agent working freelance for the various attack jelly breeding farms. Thank you, miss. I'm sure your goldfish will be very happy to have company." Rob looked helplessly around Times Square. "Where is he? It must be 5 o'clock. 5:04 and 50 seconds, Dennis confirmed. 57, 58, 59, 5:05. Dennis, I can't believe you. Artie's missing, and you buy a new watch." Dennis looked ashamed. "Sorry, I couldn't pass this up. $35. It was a steal." "It probably was, coming from that store. But that's not important. Where's Artie?" "I don't think he's going to show up," Kevin decided. "Don't you think I know that?" exclaimed Rob in exasperation. "He doesn't even know where to find us." "Maybe he'll go back to where we parked the ambulance," said Sheldon. "That's right," exclaimed Dennis triumphantly. "Okay, guys, back to the Empire State Building. I'll time us with my stopwatch." All 7 headed at a brisk trot down to the spot where they had left the van several hours earlier. A shiny gray Rolls Royce sat in the space where the white Junior Tours van had once been. "It's gone! It was right here and it's gone!" Dennis knocked politely on the window of the Rolls, and the smoked glass receded quietly into the door. A uniformed chauffeur peered out questioningly. "Excuse me, sir, but have you seen a white van? It was parked here before." The chauffeur sniffed. "I have not actually seen your vehicle, but I should imagine that might provide some clue to its whereabouts." He pointed a gloved finger to a sign which read, "2-hour parking only. Violators will be towed away at owner's expense." The smoke glass rose again, and the chauffeur was gone. "Oh, no. Our ambulance!" exclaimed Sam. "Okay," Dennis decided. "All we have to do is phone and find out where they towed the van. Go pick it up, come back here, and get Artie. So, Rob, you wait here, and we'll go for the van." "Forget it, Dennis. There's no way I'm doing the waiting this time. You wait here, and I'll pick up the van." "We'll go with Rob," decided Kevin. As it turned out, the van was being held in a large warehouse on 12th Avenue, at the very western edge of Manhattan. Rob hailed a cab and bundled himself and his 5 chargers inside. The ride was a costly affair through stop-and-go traffic, and the police warehouse was a dilapidated structure that sobered them all considerably. An officer escorted them to one of the parking levels and left them to search through a sea of impounded cars. After a few moments of aimless wandering, Howie suddenly threw his head back in glee and emitted the group yell. The 6 began to run toward the white van, then stopped short and stared. There, in the front seat, was Artie, wearing a police officer's hat and licking a chocolate ice cream cone. Spying them, he waved, "Hi!" Despite the dim light, Kevin risked a picture. Rob rushed forward. Artie, why you? A bareheaded police officer appeared. This your van? I guess that makes you the idiot responsible for losing this cute little kid. Now listen, Buster, this is a big city, and if you can't look after kids, you've got no business being a counselor. But officer, and while you're at it, you might watch where you park your van. This is going to cost you $65. Stop by the cashier on your way out. Now beat it. He turned to Artie. So long, kid. Take care of yourself. He put his hat back on his head, tossed a contemptuous look at Rob, and walked out of view. Opting for self-control, Rob took a deep breath. All right, let's get out of here.